Okay, here's a review of the arc and co-functions quiz in preparation for the offered retake. Now, there were two versions of this quiz, but I'm only going to go over one because they contain the same contents, and I'm not interested in just giving you the answers, more the concepts, the process, etc. And since you won't know which questions you're going to get when you get the retake, that makes the most sense. Now, for questions 1 and 2, find the value of theta in degrees. If you opt to use the calculator, write your steps. So what we want to do is we want to find theta. So here's what we need to do. I need to get theta all by itself. There's two things I need to get rid of. First, in this case, I need to get rid of the 4. And I do that by dividing by 4 on the right side too. That gets me that cosine of theta is equal to, let me bring up my calculator here. Okay, so cosine of theta is equal to 2 rad 3 over 4. Let's see what that's equal to. 2 square root of 3 over 4. Okay, so that's 0.866. 0.866. Now I need theta, not just cosine theta, but theta itself. So let me get rid of the cosine. The way that I do that is by applying an arc cosine to both sides. So arc cosine of this and arc cosine of this. The cos and the arc cos will cancel, leaving me with just theta is equal to. Now let's see what this is equal to. The question says in degrees, so let me make sure I'm in degree mode. Yep, degree is highlighted. So let's see. Arc cos of 0.866, second cosine of 0.866, and that is 30.002, etc. So we want to find it in the whole number of degrees, so 30 degrees. All right. Next one, same concept. I want to get theta all by itself, right? So there's two things I have to do. I need to get rid of this -2, then I need to get rid of sine. So I don't like this fraction over here, so let me change it into a decimal, and I'll keep a few extra decimal points on it, just so I can be sure that I don't make any rounding mistakes. So let me bring this up. Calculator this. Let's see. When I type this in, I'm going to want to put a parentheses around the numerator, just to keep everything together. So this is -4 plus the square root of 2 divided by 2. So that's -1.29, etc. So here's what I've got. I've got -2 plus sine theta is equal to -1.293. Okay. Now I'm going to have to add 2 to both sides, because remember I want theta, so add 2, so plus 2 in my calculator, 0.707. So I get that sine theta is equal to 0.707. And now I'm going to get rid of the sine by using the arc sine, which is what we call like the anti-sign, the inverse sign. Sine to the -1. These will cancel, leaving me with just theta. That's equal to the arc sine of 0.707. So let's see what that is. Arc sine of 0.707. That's going to be 44.99 or 45 degrees. All right. So that's how we use the arc functions. We use them to undo sine, cos, tan when we want theta itself, the actual angle. Close the calculator for a little bit. Which cofunction is the reciprocal of cosine? So there are 3 cofunctions, of course, and in question 3 we're going to list them. The 3 cofunctions are secant, cosecant, and cotangent. Now, if you can spell them out, the third letter will tell you which function it's the reciprocal of. So cosine is secant. The reciprocal of sine is going to be cosecant. And the reciprocal of tangent, t, is cotangent. Now, just in case the questions vary a little bit, let's remember, that means that secant is 1 over cosine. That means that cosecant is 1 over sine. And that means that cotangent is 1 over tangent, which is also the same thing as saying cosine over sine. Now for questions 7 through 12, the angle on this version of the test is 570 degrees. What are the decimal value to the nearest thousandth and the exact value of sine theta? So I need the decimal value and the exact value. So let's see. I'm going to go to my calculator again. The decimal value of sine of 570. And they say sine theta. Theta is 570. So that's the angle we're talking about here. So let's see. The decimal value of sine of 570. Sine 570. Negative 0.5. By exact value, I mean fraction. So what is this as a fraction? It's negative 1/2. Next question was the decimal value and the exact value of cosine theta. Same angle, cosine of 570. That's negative 0.866. And the exact value is negative radical 3 over 2. Decimal, exact. Now what is the exact value of secant theta? Now if you remember up here, take a look. Secant, I wrote it out, secant is 1 over cosine. So let's see. When you do 1 over cosine, it's the same thing as saying to flip the fraction. So essentially if I take cosine and I flip it, that'll be secant. Yep, so let me flip it. Secant is cos, so this is 2 over negative radical 3. Cosecant is just flipped sine, right? So that was negative 1/2, so flip that, becomes negative 2 over 1. Or that's just the number negative 2. Tangent theta. Tangent, you should remember this by now, tangent is sine theta over cos theta. Now, sine in this case is negative 1/2 all over cosine, which is negative rad 3 over 2. We don't divide fractions by fractions, so we keep change flip. I'm going to keep the negative 1/2. I'm going to change it to multiplication, and I'm going to flip the bottom fraction. 2 over negative radical 3. The 2's cross out, the negatives cross out, and my final answer for tangent is 1 over radical 3. Cotangent is just flipped tangent. So if I want cotan, all I have to do is flip this. Radical 3 over 1, which is just radical 3. Okay, if cosine theta equals negative 0.3, use the Pythagorean identity. Ooh, I know that. The Pythagorean identity is sine squared theta plus cosine squared theta equals 1. So they tell me cos theta is this, so that's convenient. So cos theta is this, so that's cos theta. So I'm going to get negative 0.3 squared. And I don't know sine yet. I still need that. They want me to find sine. So let's see. Negative 0.3 squared. That's going to be 0.09. So sine squared theta plus that. is equal to 1. I'm going to want to subtract 0.09 on both sides. I get that sine squared theta equals 0.91. And I need to get rid of the square. And how do I do that? By square rooting. I'm going to need my calculator for this. Sine theta is equal to square root of 0.91, 0.954. Remember that we have positive or negative 0.954. And that is sine theta. Check to make sure I followed the rounding rules. To the nearest thousandth. Yep, 3 decimal places. 0.954. Now they want to know, which 2 quadrants could the angle from question 13 be in? So let's think about this. I could answer this just based off the value of cosine, but I'll take them both into account to make this easier for you guys. Now, cosine is my base of the triangle. It's also the x-axis. Sine is the height of the triangle, or the y-axis. So if I'm thinking about my x and my y-axes here, I know that this is x, which means it's also cosine, and that this is y, which means it's also the sine. So when sine is positive, that's up, and when sine is negative, that's down. When cos is positive, that's to the right, and when cos is negative, that's to the left. So let's see here. They say that cosine is negative 0.3, so that means that I must be this way, right? I must be this way. But I don't know, because cosine could be positive or negative. Sorry, sine could be positive or negative. That means we could be up or we could be down. So which 2 quadrants are these? Well, the quadrants are 1, 2, 3, and 4. So I guess we must be in 2 or 3. Okay, and I'll go over the bonus just because I'm already on this video, but there will be no bonus on the retake. Create a trigonometric function that models the following scenario. Raul starts tracking his position while at the top of a Ferris wheel. The maximum height on this wheel is 98 feet, and the platform where riders get on is 8 feet off the ground. The ride takes 16 minutes to complete a full rotation. So I'm going to start off with a graph. All right, here's my graph. I know that a Ferris wheel starts up, goes down, and then back up again. He starts tracking his position at the top, so it's here. The maximum height is 98 feet, so that must be where we start. The platform where riders get on is 8 feet off the ground, so that's the lowest it must go. In between here is 90, so we add these up and divide it by 2. Add them up gets me 106, divided by 2 is 53. So if I do a little mental subtraction minus this, looks like this is plus 45, and this is minus 45. That's my amplitude, 45. It takes 16 minutes to complete a full rotation. So if it starts up here, I think this is a cosine function. That takes how long? 16 minutes. And that's going to be the period. Now, the frequency is what goes into the function. Frequency is 2 pi over period, which means it's 2 pi over 16. Simplify 2 over 16 into 1 over 8. So this is pi over 8 as the frequency. So a cosine function looks like this. Y equals a cosine of fx plus the midline. Amplitude is going to be 45. So I've got y equals 45 cosine. Frequency is pi over 8. X plus the midline, which is 53. Okay, So that is everything that was going to be on the quiz. Anything tangential to this, right, you should also know. If you have any specific questions, please feel free to see me throughout the day or ask me any questions later on. Good luck and good studying.